Ilchishioch satini chaltakat Johan. Chakuksa away Johan achtu yak ewuchin khasati. Yahaayí tangi daataya. Yejagachtune. Ye awa adati tichtatan. Wasa I ideka qadishi. Wooch in. Yuchagach kanachtush adit. Aqa away yata away khwat Guksa. Kwash qanne. Kakkwashahid. Ya tlecha at yahaayí achtuwasagu yisatini. Wujin yuchagachtushla adawe daat. Gwash yisatin aya yach. Just tlecha daat achtuwasagu. Chadasa awe daat tiwdatan. Ha in kananig. Klingit keinach. Just klingit keinach. Tlecha keinach. Ziyagen kagachtu tlecha yuchatangitin. Gwash de yisatin yata hechasakoko. Adusa di tuwasagu daat yuchayitangi.
Shaya de hain ka awe.
Yeah, awe.
Zait kayatin.
Aslagewe nachin.
Yeah, awe. Kun nachin sa yisatin.
Sayeti we yahaayí.
Yisikuga?
Sayeti. Where is this?
Shikak ikhraji.
Wajitsowe shitka we nusk hidichatin we Peter Simpson.
Weka, yeah, kaka.
Yeah, we la kudzi we yahaayí shitka dak.
Wooch fix adi ka hit train khatin.
Okay.
We hai kagwan tanku again.
Gwash giwe kukitan. Gwash ye.
Yeah.
Kun nachin sa yisatin. Like, dech, nask. Gwash giwe dakun.
What? So where?
Yehoji 1904.
Yeah, huchi ai kuik we shayadahini ka ya huchi ai kuik sak ikhaji we tan duga we kaku kus tak
A cook has nak. Ye awa, we singit. Ye has a yosaka, Governor Brady. Telsuyak wahi, a kui, de hooch, just a cut at ye pussy. Ye awa hoach, we singit shat the nakki. Ha ower kawus. Just like a tsuk a atinachayati. Wasak ach kaudu lechek. Wasa atqone. Wasa haqqatil the katuhan. Ya hasu the chunk ian. Gos kuig telsuyak kuig. Ye awa yata. Governor Brady. Ye yosaka just like a tsuk. Telsuyak kuig. Gos the katu ye hasu wajian. Eka huji kuig. Yak kuig has to anika. Wasa ishan dane. Haskawa shu. Wega.
We kuig. The last great potlatch. Click up, not you do a sock.
Ye awa. Kukitan ai. Gultikat. Yedach aya. Wudu chuch. Wudu a chuch. Itrage. Ngewene.
Ah,
Yn os tis, cwnach siarakuch ka sach ka shaki at ka at sach chatin.
Ye awa. Ach keitsu. Gul. I'd like just yeke. Yandu an adu tlech wutsaka. Yidu asaka adyata.
Daat uada tlet in a say chodji. Gavin Hill, sheet Duk
Good cheese.
Cliade.
Okay. ETA. Ja, dat kan cheese. Ise kuke basak showy.
A katanku.
Kachli kadan.
Wasagach to sa clep quiz. Huckley, aya, Huckley. Chatsu, ja, kwan ko tleshke ishan chat. Tuck yagi aya chach chetan. Tleshke. Ja, du sa eka chat sa khan ko achit has aus. Wasa ya dudla with Wasa yan dudla with
we Hachchanak Deshitan Kuik we Hukle contest we ye shawat. Whoa.
Kuyi dlach again.
Sach kwnach has to din would he chwell.
Has due to quit.
ʼatudli.átk.
Ach yeet katliauk kach we chashi we soapberry song huckly shit. Oh, kunach.
Okay. As I put it to a contest, wooch kagedi, gwalli wooch kagedi, wooch kagedi, cut do hooked, gwalli we soapberry contest, we gwalki we gachtu sa, gwalki ishi ka anya shahash has wawus, gwal ka nak. Dasatsu? Klinkit anika we kayani ge satin. Kashyang buksa eshui to satin. Kakuang nakidach utut satin. Dakka klinkit anika konachwe takadir.
Het huck we kachchanak Glacier Bay.
Eshui ka sit itiri you do a song. Etraga.
Ook.
Oh. That's it. You click to daat.
We poster achjiwu nashte chatin daat.
Okay.
Tlingit sa tea we traditional tlingit country stuck in Kwan we kachchanak de.
Acho awe decha sai kutzati gwashisaku. Ya hutsnu kwan ka hutzita kwan. Stokhin kwan ka shkat kwan. Ya wa adati tichtatan. Gwas llingit ani. Chak. Yishtakat yeke wutien. Yidetko yechwaji. Clash on ku. Clash on kuste. Ya yidat. Qunachu. Klingitike aye yiti dat. Kuyu. Tsaudan. Gwash. Takjik an. Klashingit ane kusti gwash giwe.
Peg huna kwan. Huna kawu.
Yeah.
Should be.
Gonna cheese. Hunakawu. Yeah. Yis at khwasha yech. Yata. Hunakawu. Kakayakach shahit. Khwasakuk eka hasa ani aya yag. sit ko'a ka kanach kawa'a aqa awe yade has has wudlet su has to asigu kochte ko'a has wud the kochu ya yidat park service yes ya waqa tlek ha ani aya yidat ha adusa hasu ku'u aya haswuna ya an jis Eka hunaku hasu ai aya ilchish
Chish.
The took.
Ah,
Sa want line. We kunakawu. Cindy Kutsko. Think it anatlayach we. Rango welcome. Auktat scene. My koi tietan ka. We calling. Wrestlers. Think it
Ah.
anatlayach. Kunakawu. Krista. Kitchan. Prince of Wales, Metlakatla, Thorn Bay, Petersburg, Guntiok CD, Chlingad Anatlek Lakudzewe, Holding Up Wrangle. Gonna choose.
Goodness chish.
okay Ikage
Adooch soe Llingadani map amllichel
Shinget readers you do a sock Aqaw adatawe ye hasjuane Gwelkiwe Andrew Hope Khwainak Keuchne Adusatsu Yisukuge
Carlton.
Oh
Fisk. Catherine Mills.
Okay, Gilchish Yakwan Tla Carlton Smith again?
Fisk.
Oh,
Smith. 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 I can't remember. Real estate.
Achid koha. Ach sick teen. Wuture keen. She atakadach. Days lin day. Ku'a. Seattle nach. Vancouver nach. Passports Hajiwa Kunach Ach Kus Yannick it next time Clash Ye Khaji Seattle nach Days Lean Day Sheet Kadach Gach to the kin Gach to the keen Gach to the kin Hooch
Sheesh. Okay. Gwell click ʼatug yahaayí.
Red snapper, yeah.
Lleq yahaayí.
At yachkia tiliwe iwak duwak.
Aqlw wan qanins. We haqli acho awe eat llingit llell has awsco a daat. We lleq ho acho daqqa llingit llell has awsco a daat. Would yachid a llaqusti? Das a yisico a daat. Eat ka chad awa chad wan qanins. Has to chuch aya at has wuchach. At has nuchach. Aqa away chad. Eat kadach aya. Ketus yirqi. Echasaku wasa atbune. Has to desego hel wasa uti. Chaan pa. Has kutzati. Chitle hin chakate. Ke has would this yirqi. We shake koa. Take. Kinde ayat would this yirq. Ya kasiye aya has to tu kasegu. One qanins qunach away atlain. The sale has to tu ye wuti. Aqa away atut masa do sago atukadu uchu at yachas uya. Ye awa haqaya keqoa wishleq. Ka wutusaku lqut Gwalli sakugusa lqut Gwall lqut hini shark ye iwutian. Lqut akanach aya yilqaini. Shinach wedu sha. Lleq you do a sock we sha. Shukach adi ani aya. Ye awa khosaku adat with lleq. Aqiyak ete.
Ratsa etsa.
Hastlegeg gwalliatayach. Okay, good.
Yeah,
Good.
yeah. Lleoch tli. Kunach ach kayak tacos. Yik.
Taco llingit chinach ye awa. Chad choa we llellgli chwsti. Chad chuchu.
Chuchu. Chad chuchu.
Lleq.
Tletli.
Lleq.
Tletli.
Punach awe a chayak
Lleoch.
taco yikt.
One we sha plek we lukach adi lukach adi at we sha plek.
Lleq you do a sago. Gwalli satin. Punach qaqaq gwashi gwalli. Let's say.
How?
Ja, dacht was goed.
Awagi llain. Lliachiti.
Chad yahaayí age.
Oh, wait there. Gwell like, gwell, wash to chulchu, yak wash to chulchu ha kayake. One cleans yat a kwa, hitch a shy at hitch the ha, a shy, yehwaji.
Gasa kas kruge. Anyach yatige. Anges yach yatige.
Sheikh yacheti.
Sheikh. Kunas cheese.
Okay. Konea ya daat. Achtatan yata. Yisitinge yasha. Sheikh. You do a saga at. Chag. Konach chag. Ya te. Adachawe awashu. Shu. Uwa Yesu. You do a saga at Gwashkiwe. Shutak. Ya yag. Ya adat away. Yach. Yedakatin. Shukach adi hitki. Shahid. Qaisan hit. Yach ayeti. Aqawi qaa. Adachwushtig. With headclaim. Dark with the git. Yada atade. We atade. Aqawushaku. Hooch. Aushayecha hitki. Ajawe. Shkud. You do a saga. Yada. Shkud. Shkud. Hini. Shukach adi ani awe. Yag ayatse. You do a saga at Yag. Ayi. Ye awe ha ani aya. Ya achlir kutlein has it to sagoon. Has awas techi. Yag. Well, utusakugu satsu. Gun hini. Ya tashar tuashku. Kain. Kachani kiko aada. Guksa atlen qatawe. Has yawatlaaqan awa ya hasilko has. Tek the hin ach tlilko klein qatuyid. Duyid away ach kla du ish. Has awas teich in yag. Aqa away. Ya ach shawat ach tlilko klein yag wuti. Tlek away du toasagu awa ini. Ye awa. Yak aya adaye jiwane we was. Guksa aya ye jiwane we was. We at 8 aya we was we do our hoots. Ya achlis could claim K we hoots away, hoots away. Jaan qua just adaye jiwane we tlek. Yan haswu kuch. Du khant haswu arat. Helke wasa iti. Hoqa. Helka sachat uti. Just takeaway a dati jachwani. Takwa in. Yisitina ge we hoots. Sugar what's aya a dayeji wune hu. Kek ha. Wanach sea kek anak you good. Kek ha. Kek ha in. Keltu toasku. Ya achdai. Keltu toa ushka khatu jaki. Helwasa oti. Just wuchi nejitune you. Ye away one panins a charcoal shinget has to tend the tani netijan. Ye away can cheese Johan. Can cheese. Wasabu tea.
Ish.
Let's reflect. How was that?
Okay.
Okay, galchish.
I realized how many things I wanted to say, like how specific I wanted to be. Like what I really wish I knew how to say was like on the tip of its fin, or the
Wait,
poison that, or the point that comes out from the tips of its fins.
the tips of its fence?
Fins.
Fins. Okay. Galchish. Oh, with the tail?
Ah,
Yeah, well, you could say your cuts, like it's sharp. Your cuts, oh, and so these are called, this big one is called dich'aw. So they're called t'aw. They're called feathers. Same word as feathers. And they have different names too. Like, let me get to my fish part thing. I'll throw the fish part one in. I'll just keep adding photos to this. And like, it took me forever to find like a thing that just grabs a random photo from a folder. I don't know why that's so hard. Well, that's what I think. I don't. I also don't make programs and stuff, so maybe it is very hard. Let me find my salmon parts thing. So this stuff is really good to know, like getting specific about the salmon, and this applies to all fish, right? Except not all of it. Like so, kadeyi is that line on a salmon, so that's kind of salmon specific. Daat is the name of the fins. Dichkat'aw is this one here. Kwayi, which is a marker, is this one. Ku is the tail. Kuwuz is that spot you kind of grab a fish right underneath the tail, that thin part right where before it becomes the tail. Kat'aw is the name of this one. Dats'aki is the name of this one, which means bones around it, which is interesting. And then t'aw is just the general name of this one. A couple of fish-specific things. K'ehu is the gills. Nuchi is it's the part right between the jaws, which is a pretty yummy part of a fish. And another thing is shanya, which is the name of what they call collars. They're commonly called collars. So if you were to really cut along this gill line, if you remove the head that way, then you would end up with these kind of two split part, like especially if you were to cut a line down here, gut it, which is called to take the guts out. And then once you had cut the head off, and then you would end up with these two like points, these tips. And when you hang them upside down, if that's the way you hang your fish, like a bunch of the oil comes down to that part, which is why those are pretty desirable. But also shanyakotah, that's where that name comes from, the moldy end of the fish collar. Yeah, and then uhu is the name of the flesh of the fish, like it has a different. And then chatsi is the name of the skin of a fish or a frog. And so those are just things to like keep in mind as we like talk about these things more.
you said of a fish or a frog. Is that just because it's slimy?
I think it's because it's thinner and you got to handle it different. That's what I would think. Which I was also told that's the name. Shingatani Kachazi is the name of the atmosphere, something like that. It's like the skin around the world, which is pretty cool.
So
Can
when
you-
the oh sorry, when the fin is sharp again, how did you say that again?
It cuts.
It's
So like so I like to do these exercises, and then I like to just sort of like talk through like what did you want to know how to say? Because that's how we sort of just keep unlocking stuff. It's more than just like doing grammar and translation all the time. We've got to get into like the language and how it works. And so if you're thinking of stuff you want, like, I wish I knew how to say this, let's figure it out. And so we'll go look up sharp and we'll see that there's a couple of options to like when you talk about something being pointy, or when you talk about thorns, like there's a whole bunch of stuff. Like you could be talking about careful how you grab that fish, because some of them are kind of pokey, right? So here is sharp, and so ʼatudli.átk, I think I said yahaayí. So ʼatudli.átk is what we want to say. Daashagóon, so it would be just like this, but with a K on it as the word for thorns. But daashagóon would be it has sharpness around it. So, and you see ʼatudli.átk. So this tells you that it's probably cuts all the time. Like it's probably short and high every single time. Then to have a sharp edge, you have yahaayí. So then you get a sharp face or a horizontal or vertical surface. Then you've got sharpen, 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 sharpen. So basically, and this is why you have because this TS apostrophe has this relationship with the CH apostrophe. Right? And there's just a couple of these things that go back and forth, like duk-toot. That name toot is some slight variation from tooch. So to be blackened. And same with here, where cuts and kach. So shikach is sharp hair. And then daashagóon is thorns. So here you could say shakats away the fins around it are sharp. So you could say that because you got to be kind of careful how you grab these guys, because they do have those things are pretty spiky. Like if you mess around with this fish, because you go eat it, because it's yummy. And then I also said like a halibut, when you pull it up, like it's still alive. Like it does something to regulate its oxygen. But when you pull up a sheikh, they're usually kind of dead by the time you pull them up. They look like a balloon, and their eyes get kind of bugged out a little bit because they can't. The pressure, they can't deal with the pressure. Huh? That's it. That was really good.
Sheikh Khao,
Awu.
Sheikh Au.
Awu. Just like a feather. Ow.
Okay, on a porcupine, a quill is
Chawu.
Khao,
Yep. Just like
and
hair.
on a rockfish, it's what again?
Awu. With a T.
Au.
So like ow is a feather, like a long feather, and it's also a fin of a fish.
Gunachish.
And then each of them have their own names too. It's like if you really want to get into cutting fish, like you could say, if your steps are kuwoots, gashat, grab this part of the fish. Dichkatawu ach nachash, cut off this fin. Akweyi. So you're going to want to put in front of all of them. Adichkatawu ach nachash. Akweyi ach nachash. You ayach, I guess you'd say you ayach sata. Flip over the dead salmon. Ach nachash akatawu, cut off this one. Ach nachash daat. And this one is probably called that because this one, I think, in my experience, is harder to cut off than the other ones because the bone runs in like right here. And so these ones, you can zip them off. If you're really good, you can just like zip them off, zip, zip, zip. But you get to this one, you got to cut in a little bit. And so, and then you could say, ach nachash asha. I would say asha if it's still on there. And then I'd say ashayi if it's off. But not everybody agrees that that's the way to do it. One time we were at a Kagwantan Ku'i in Huna. Okay, I'll tell you the story in Shinget, then we'll translate. Huna ayaye hawutian. Hasta Ku'i ki kach ya Kagwantan. Ye awa hak Aqitas awati, konachyak atcha, daashagóon. Kadain aya wuditza achtuwu da. Yisaku we ye nach sati hastaku ikich usatien. Aqa away wutaqinen. Wutaqinen. Ya ach yetki wan qalins hastu tuasukko khant haswa adi. Ya ach dech ach sik kwal dechawe du katagu. Ya achant uagut. Dasa icha daashagóon. Panachawe ake. Toagesigo achini chai. Llingit chenach aya wuchinu chatil atkan. Aqa awe qone adach aya chuen. A walk. Ya ach yedi choa. Dasa way. A walki aya. Du chai at qaqeyak. Toagesigo ichai. Uqwa. Yake yadu atuye yeti choa. Te yacheti at. Lichtuchai at adachlachut. Aqa away. Just the cut that cookie ha. Ye awe achayach awacha. We walk to te tesh awacha. Just the cut that hoa awacha. Aqa away. Chachwawus wasabuti. Hukoa. Goose another one walk. Sneak aya. So we're in Huna for a kagwantan kuik, and they were feeding us really good food. They had baked king salmon heads, and everybody got half of a head. And you know, like at a kagwantan kuik, the raven peoples will be sitting in the middle. And so I was sitting there just enjoying myself, and my kids would come up to me now and then just to say hi. And my youngest daughter, she was probably 2. And she came up and she said, "What are you eating?" And I said, "King salmon head. You want to eat it with me?" And she said, "Yes." So we're eating it, and I began to scoop out the eye. And she said, "What's that?" And I said, "It's its eye. It's food. It's edible. Do you want to eat it?" She said, "Yeah." And I said, "But there's like a thing that's like a rock in the middle. Don't eat that. Just spit it out." And I said, "But the rest you could eat." So she took it and she spit that part out. And I said, "How was it?" And she said, "Goose another one walk," which is a really fun of it's not Lingish, it's I guess it is, but it's in a different way. So it was fun. What is it? Inglit? I don't know. Lingish is where you take a Tlingit word and you apply Tlingit sound, or you take an English word and it goes into the Tlingit sound system, like cock and greens or gwen. And then I guess English would be where you take English words and insert them into Tlingit grammar. I don't know. Anyways, it's fun stuff.
Why is it that there's an A before all of those body parts, but not necessarily in other places I've seen it?
Like, can you give it, like, well, these all should have a, because it's.
Okay, so that's what it is.
So it's a non-human.
Okay.
You could say duh if you want to, but technically we should be switching to for bears and salmon.
Okay, that was all I wanted.
So is its. And if your dog is duh or your cat, that's fine. I'm not gonna argue with you. My dog is duh. Duguk. My dog is yahaayí too. Okay. Any other thoughts, questions, things you wish you knew how to say?
ʼatudli.átk.
Say it again. Oh, your sound isn't coming through for some reason.
ʼatudli.átk. Everything.
Yeah, touch the kadat. Okay.
Sock eki. Is there a special verb for rendering sock into eki?
Oh, I think you'd probably just say Dishuk for boiling.
Ganashchi.
But yeah, like we were just talking about that today, like working on medicine and stuff. It's because in English you'd say they're making medicine. But I think in Tlingit, just to generally say it, you'd say, I think you'd use the da'ine verb, like and so da'dune or whatever you're going to conjugate that to just work on it. And people would get what you're getting to. But if you want to say they're cooking it, then you end up with, this is another one of those categories. There should be a Tlingit, what do you call it? Game show. That's just called categories. So cooking is one of those things that has a bunch of categories. And so for me, whenever I am thinking of cooking stuff, it's all about like the way that it's being cooked. And so we do have E to just generally be cooked. So this is how you could say, you see the sample sentences, de yanein. Well, that's actually, they are cooking it. They are already cooking it. Well, this one probably doesn't even have a subject marker, which to check that, we'll go over here. And so, no, it doesn't. Yeah, see, it's a state verb, just to be cooked. So then no one's even going to be cooking that. That's just to say it is cooked. Danakit. Your hand is up.
Yeah, I was trying to, one thing I wanted to be able to say is the tail goes up and down like a whale. This one goes side to side like a salmon.
Mm-hmm. So you'd probably end up with nosh. We'll come back to cooking. So nosh is for something to go back and forth like that, but maybe it isn't. So there's another one, like this one, nosh, which is actually nosh. When I don't know if that's actually back and forth like this. Like I think that might be like this. But I don't know. But when you see like this is a negative response, nosh. So there's this other one, which is shakilien. And when I was messing around with this verb, because I think this verb is fun, Ruth Demert gave it with the yain verb root. So we ended up with klech achyade shklech shakilien chik. Don't go like this to me. Don't go like that to my face. Don't shake your finger at my face. So if we go to yain, this is to wag a tail, to wave a hand. So this has to do with this back and forth thing. So okay, this is one we'd probably have to ask a speaker to say, how does it, for a tail to go like this as opposed to like this? Because to move like that is also how it's swimming. Like that's really the force of it swimming is through its tail, right? Like a fish and a whale and also a seal and a sea lion get the majority of their strength, I think, from their tail for swimming. So, okay, that's a really good question. So if anybody's working with the speaker, ask them how to say a fish moves its tail like that. I'll see if I can find it out too. But then, yeah, ask Kakashat and Gaze what they think. To say like, for a fish to say, it moves its tail like a fish, not like a whale. They might end up with yeausane, because you could yeausane, you can get by with a lot with that. It just means to do it. Hastaku yateach yeausane. And so like you can use your hands. Like we speak of, it's a visual language as much as anything as well, not as much, but because the other thing is the one difference would be to slap the tail on the water, because that's a different thing.
Yeah, I was interested.
So we end up with ʼatudli.átk for that one, which I think would be the same as like a whale when they slap their tail, or a killer whale, or a beaver. And I think this is also the same verb as when someone dances behind a blanket and gets their head going like this and gets the feathers flying. That's also ʼatudli.átk.
Follow-up question. On that note, you were saying you were talking about the shakiyat. I was curious if it would be inappropriate, and if not, how would you say it's like their head is in a shakiyat, or they're nodding their head like they're dancing or something like that? Because if a kiddo is nodding off, to me, it looks like they're shaking their head, like they're nodding their head as if they're dancing in a shakiyat.
I don't think you should say that.
Their head is dipping down like that.
Yeah, and that's why I asked, because I don't want to, I don't want to say it and then have a grandma or somebody be like, "Hey, don't say that." But at the same time, it's literally the only visual I thought of.
Yeah. Okay, there's a verb for that. Okay, so let's find these ones with the shakiyat, because I would think we might not want to use that one because it's it's a special verb. So this one, it means to you can.
And it's deliberate too.
What's that?
I said it's deliberate,
Right? It's like you're teaching people how to do that, right? Not to this one. So this one is ʼatudli.átk would be to just knock someone completely down by hitting them. Then I think it's under scatter. So yeah, so you'd say ʼatudli.átk would be they made the feathers just really fly. Okay. So the falling, it's like a face falling is what you end up with. Yindatan. Okay, let's see if we can find. I bet you it's under fall. Okay, let me try another spot.
How about under sleepy?
Yeah, I'm gonna look under sleep. I'm just gonna do a word search for sleep because I think that might be how it's on there. Not that, not that.
Maybe I would just say he's like a bobblehead.
Oh. Yeah, there's probably a way to talk about that head, just like.
The dictionary nod off.
Oh, is that where it's at?
Jan Goth. Oh, there's that one. But in your online dictionary is nod off
Oh, okay.
with a completely different word.
So which one's right?
There.
Yeah, to fall on your face. There. I remember what the verb root was, and so this would be yan yahaayí. So yan yahaayí. They fell on their face. So let's see. Okay, now that we found the verb root, we'll go into the Lear notes and go under gots and see what we could find. Because I feel like I asked someone this at some point, and they gave me the answer. and gots is like a.
I'd like to, one of the things we have done at the Sharing Our Knowledge Clan Conference every year is the spelling bee. And one of the people said we should have a reference bee when people say, how do you say, or how do you find something? Because some people are so good at going to the right reference and finding it. She said we could time it. Who found this fastest and where did they find it?
Okay. Okay, so now you got two questions for the grandmas, if you so choose to ask them. To be nodding off and also to be, what was the second one? Oh, the way the fish tail moves. Okay. Oh, we were cooking too. Let me finish that thought. So you have a verb for something to be cooked, right? Yahaayí, it's been cooked. And then you have si'i, which now we have someone cooking it. Cook some rice for them to eat. Wasakits'inuch, how do you cook it? And then you have cooking it by coals or open flame. And so this is telling you these are both zero conjugation because we're seeing the command forms. Cook the meat by live coals. This is to wrap it in skunk cabbage and cook it in a pit, like the salmon. Shaanáx. So now we're getting another command form that shows us this one is n conjugation. So then as far as like what do you do with this information? In the perfective, this will be long and high. This will be short and high. This will be long and low. Like we can tell that once the conjugation prefix is revealed to us. ʼatudli.átk, that's different. That's different than cooking it. That's to dig up the food that's been cooked. Cook it whole in the skin. Sa would do the hits. That's also zero conjugation because it shows us a perfective and it's short and high. Both of these prefix vowels would be short though. W-U-D-U. Let's see. And I would also translate that as it was cooked whole instead of they. Let's see. Now we got cooked to blanch something, specifically herring eggs. Does not reveal the conjugation prefix to us. It's a future. The only thing that we can tell that it's either zero or na. And how do we know that?
Because it doesn't have either K or yay in front of the future.
Yeah, oh wow. So that gets us, so then we look for either the perfective or the command form. And so if we have the perfective, and so we can also, usually the perfectives are in Lear's notes, but I don't think he goes down to that verb. I just remembered. Okay. But I bet you it's probably zero. And I think we can probably confirm it here. Yeah, it's a zero. Okay. And then to partially cook something when freshly killed, probably also a zero. And then cook later or fat cooked as a snack and eaten as it cooks. Nooch. Okay. Well, I guess they don't have it under, not all of them are on there. So this is interesting because they're not all under cook, because another way to cook something is by boiling it. So here's cha'uk, again a zero. Utl, this is to make utchi. This is not used for anything else. This is a very specific verb. And ʼatudli is not chowder. So I want to make sure we all know this. So critical piece of information. If you got more than 5 ingredients, you might not have ʼatudli. To boil meats and to boil especially berries. So then they each have their own sort of thing. So this is where when we get into cooking something, we'd have to figure out how we're cooking that thing. And so to make the medicine, you're probably just gonna end up with sa'i, but that's another, okay. There's another question to ask. Because you're gonna boil the water for the tz'acht, if you're gonna make that tz'achtini. And then I think we're gonna get another cooking thing under broil. They're all spread out on here. You gotta kind of just remember where they are. So ʼatudli and ʼatzik. So ʼatudli, there's a command, 0. And ʼatzik, there's a perfective, short and high, so also a 0. It would make sense that most of these are 0 verbs because there's a point when they are done, right? Don't burn the bacon. Okay, good cheesh. Any other thoughts or questions, things you were thinking about, wanted to ask about?
Renee,
Oh.
my rather vague recollection is that we have class this week. Do we have a class the exam week, which
Yes.
has been done in the past? And if so, which day is it?
We are meeting today, Naskigi, and iti Sunday just Kekeki. So only on Monday of next week. And what I'd like to do is just reflect. We're going to talk about these 3 recordings we were working on that are maybe a little more difficult than I anticipated, maybe. And then we're going to talk about the next semester. And I would like you all to have a final statement to share with the class in Tlingit. As long as you would like it to be, but no longer than 15 minutes.
Yeah.
In Tlingit as well. And so you have 1 week to write your final speeches. They're not graded. It's not recorded or broadcasted. It's just for us to share with each other and to reflect on our language journey together. Yeah, g'nchish for asking. And no pressure. Just have fun with it. It's not the speech of your life.
I have another question. Last week, somebody, you asked us when the audience is shouting words of encouragement to somebody, which clan is it? So if a raven is speaking, it is the eagles who are shouting words of encouragement. How do we as ravens support each other then? You just sit there silently and let them feel bad?
Okay, that's a very good question. If it's at Pu'ik, that's a difficult thing because we are in an era where you might have a gathering where nobody speaks Tlingit, right? You might have a gathering where 1 or 2 people do. So you have some options if it's coming to like speech time. One of the things that I would recommend is to go sit by someone that you know very well. So you can just give them a nudge, say it now, right? And we might have to plant a seed, right? And this is just a stopgap. Like,
yeah.
Ideally, there's someone there who can do those things. But I've spoken to rooms full of people and nobody's said anything. And it makes you feel bad, right?
Yeah.
The other thing too is we have been in situations where the same clan will call out, but it was not a cultural gathering. It was just like some gathering at the library, right? But it becomes a cultural thing if someone starts speaking Tlingit. And so, but if someone says something you really agree with, and you know that there's no one else there who can potentially understand it, just go for it. Just because it's not going to be a cultural violation. It's going to be like, well, we can't just let it go. And so, but ideally, as we get into those situations, we might need to train some folks. And it's a sensitive thing because we're not supposed to tell our opposites what to do. And that's not what we're doing. We're just saying, like, we're just helping to coach them through some things. So a nephew or a niece or someone that you know well, that you have a bit of a training role with them anyways. You can sort of sit by them and say, okay, when you hear something really good, here's a list of phrases you could say.
Mm-hmm.
And I've done that before too.
Yeah.
So
And it is a time to teach, to teach each other.
And if we do it, it'll naturalize again to the point where people will say, oh, that's something, I should say something for that. And then next thing you know, we'll be telling, because it just ramps the whole thing up. It's like climbing a ladder. It's really a neat thing to be a part of.
Yeah.
In all the recent weeks, I think a lot of people really appreciated when there was those educational moments, and we actually just said that this is going to be an educational moment. It's kind of like we're putting in pause all the clan protocol because we're educating everybody about this, like, and if you remember, Hune, at that moment there was things like, who raises a hand and when, and who are you facing during this time period, what are you looking for, and we just called it that, an educational moment.
Yeah, and I think as we do our ceremonies, we just need to do more and more of that stuff so that, and also just say, if you got a question, like, come ask us. And then it's almost like, not like everything's a classroom, but then if someone asks us a question, we're like, oh yeah, let's go say it into the microphone. So like, because maybe someone's nervous to ask, but then it's, as we're in this interesting, because going back to that picture, like I think about that stuff, like, can you imagine if the governor of Alaska just said, nobody gets to go to church anymore. Churches are closing tomorrow. And then, like all the leaders of the churches, the priests and the pastors and everybody went to the governor and said, just let us have church one more time. Just one last time, please. And he says, okay, but this is it. You'll never go to church again. Like, could you imagine what that would be? Like, that's what our ancestors lived through. They said, Governor Brady said, you guys can never have the ku'ik again. It's banned in Alaska. And so they came to him. They said, let us have one more. And he said, okay, fine, but no more after that. And as they gathered in Sitka for that kukitan party, that ku'ik, they knew it was probably in their minds, this, like, think of losing the land and losing so much stuff. And they're like, okay, they're never going to let us do this again. And just how important ku'ik is to our people. And that's why as we sort of approach it now, we're in a reconstruction period with our language, with our culture, with our songs, with our art. And so I think everything should be gentle and kind and from a teaching perspective. And if it's not, then you're going to just hurt people. And why hurt people? So yeah, I think those are really important things to consider. And when I look at those pictures, I think of that stuff because people told me the stories about those things, and it was really, it was just really just incredible to think of what they went through and how they held on to everything. So Gunchish for bringing that up.
I think that I have seen if a speaker is tentative or not getting responses, sometimes a fellow clan person comes and stands by them. And there's a whole phrase for that, I think, of just being with them. And that's,
maybe.
Yeah.
Okay. 10 minutes of grammar. Start the clock. So we kind of walk through these conjugation prefixes, right? Like, so there's these 4 spots. And like, if you look at spot number 1 and spot number 3, you can only have you're really only going to have one of those, right? And so you can never have, I don't think you can have more than 3 that are active at any given time. Ga, qa, that's a long one. For any of the, another long one is the potential. So the potential means you're going to have whatever prefix whatever conjugation type it is, like if it's 0, or if it's qa, or if it's na, or if it's ga, that's going to activate. You'll also have the aerialis, and you'll also have qa mode. So that's why you say ʼatudli.átk, looking for something to eat. Or daashagóon, I can't sleep. So if you have and na and qa and kha, you get unqa. Okay. I can't sleep. So we talked also about with the ga, when you take the vowel out, it turns to a K. The likes to jump over the kha. Qa, when you take the vowel out, you get which is different. We would expect that to be an underlined K, but the underlined K is reserved for qa plus kha. When you got those together, you get qa. Right? That's why I say daashagóon. That's why you say eat qadashi. That's a hortative. Qa and kha gets you qa. That's also why you have kukwa and stuff, and kukha for futures. The na, the one way that could change is by just dropping the vowel. So you could say yan chagut, I'm walking. I'm walking here. Yan chagut yang. That's how you speak Lingi, I guess, in New York City. And you like hit the hood of someone's. The perfective marker also likes to jump over the kha. The perfective marker, I gotta change this. Well, that's fine. It likes to be a W. The only thing that's gonna push it to be a Y is the second person singular or plural. All other cases, it's gonna be a W. If you end up with vowel, W, consonant vowel, that's where you switch to the M. And for except for Atlan, they don't really, old time speakers in Atlan, I don't think really use the M that much. Okay, so let's talk about subjects. So when you get into subjects and how they contract, kha is, I think, the only one that could change. You can't change to, I, y, or du. They cannot change. They don't want to change in terms of dropping vowels. There's no vowels that can change. Kha can drop its vowel, and you'll get that, right? You'll see it. We'll see it happen. Tu and I, they are long when the classifier has no vowel. Vowel in the classifier, short. No vowel, long. That's how it goes. So you say I-cha, tu-cha, right? And you say shtu-ish, tu, shtu-tush, tu. They'll go long because there's no vowel in the classifier. Yi, you have to catch this second Y. Whether if you're an inland speaker, you're going to say ying. It's going to sound like an NG sound. But if you're on the coast, you can go yi, and you have to smile while you say that. And that's how you go, as opposed to you say ye good, ye art, ye. It gets that little wiggle. Don't lose that little wiggle. Because if we start saying ye art, you're speaking too fast. Ye good. Let me type those up so you can see what I'm talking about. Oops. So we're talking about ye good, one person, ye art. So that these are two different prefixes. Ye good, ye art. So do something with your eyebrows. Do something to signal to your body to not. This is one thing I think we're in danger of losing, that we should not lose. Because if it's all, it's too fast. Hot ye ye. There's a little wiggle there. Don't lose that little wiggle. Okay. So that gets us to the classifier. How do these things change? What happens? Ya can just turn into the letter A. Ya can also just turn into Well, there's a uwa. Oh, okay, we'll get to that. Sa, sha, and sha can all drop their vowels. They can. And they'll become S, L, and SH. Okay? There's a very inappropriate time when someone was trying to bawl me out. I'll just say it. It was a very inappropriate time. And when they were bawling me, and it was weird the way they were bawling me out because it was a toxic thing. Like, so this person was talking to their relative and they were saying, Teshas ausaku. And they were just like really trying to like make sure I think they were trying to make me feel bad. But they were saying Teshas ausaku. And I was like, Teshas ausaku. You know, and so, but I didn't say anything because someone had literally just died. I was like, this is not the time to be preaching about this kind of stuff. Anyways, it's got to be that. Why? Because the irialis is right next to the sa. It's got to go that way. So if you have sa, sha, or sha as the classifier, and immediately to the left, if you have any of these things and nothing in between them, they will delete that vowel. So so there's a bunch of stuff, like if you were to say, to eat a bunch of things in little bites. Chasacha, tusacha, isacha, yisacha, ascha. That's how it's got to go. Shaanáx.
Oh, I wasn't raising my hand. I was just playing with the air.
The irialis will cause that. Na conjugation will cause that. And so you'd say, Aushiku. So coming back to here, Aushiku. Anybody know what that translates to? Qoinatin, Aushiku.
They wiped it?
They wiped it. So how would you say they're wiping it right now? I'll give you a hint. It's qa conjugation. That tells you what the first part should be. It's not ya. It's not ke.
Yay.
It's yay. What comes next?
Awatko.
Well, we're gonna have na, because it's gonna be like yana good, ya anas queen. It's one of those types. It's a progressive imperfective. So in the progressive, ye, na. Now this
No.
shla,
No, it's queen.
but yeah, that gets canceled. And then if you have qu, and then you add an n, because this progressive wants to do a number of things. It says you got to put either ya, ke, or ye in front of it. You got to have the na conjugation, and if that verb root is open, you got to close it with an n. And if you close u with an n, it goes to wane every time, right? And so you'll see this in other instances. I'll show you another example where this happens. So yanashqoin, they are wiping it. So another example of that would be ausaku. But what if they're getting to know it right now? It's a zero conjugation. Saku, know it.
Yanis queen. Yanis queen.
And you have na, you would have sa, but that na cancel, and that na is like, get out of here, vowel. And then you would have ku, but once you close it, you get way. Yanas queen. Oops. Did I forget something? Yes, I did. What did I forget?
Ah,
Yeah, oh well. They gotta know something. Well, okay. What about this? There it is. It's good. What if it's getting better right now? We can't sing the Beatles songs getting better all the time because now it's got to be habitual. H. Paul McCartney. What if it's getting better right now? It's not going to be ya. It's not going to be yay. There's one culprit left.
Okay.
Okay.
Gotta have na. That's going to be a 0. So this classifier is going to go back to 0. But is that it?
You just said you have to close it.
That's right. Close that thing up. Kana cane. It's getting better. Okay, I gotta do one with an verb. Okay. If you close, let's see. Let me put these together.
Oh boy.
If you close something that ends with that's going to go to ain, right? So like, I think the verb. Okay. So you would have kawa'a for it grew. What about if it's growing right now? This is na conjugation. So that tells you everything you need to know to put it in the progressive. Although this is a little bit different than the other ones we just did.
Kana'ain.
Yes, so you have ya kana'ain. So then here's yigut. So to unlock the key to going home, to ending this class, is putting these last two in the progressive. So this is you walked. What about you are walking right now? Which will be a na conjugation. Well, yahaayí. We'll let this serve for this one. Yahaayí. Y'all are walking. What about a single you?
Yahaayí.
Yeah, it's close.
Yanagut. Take out the Y, but I don't know if goot is long or short.
So
Nigu.
plus it. And there's a 0, but we're just going to leave that out. Gets you E. Yahaayí.
What two the E added together? What two things? Sorry.
Na plus I is ni.
Okay.
Yahaayí. You're getting to know it. Yahaayí. You are, or yahaayí. You are wiping it. Okay. Gonna cheesh. But so this is everything in this sort of slideshow. Like this is every single, like in terms of like the basics of contractions. And then I'll put this whole slideshow up so you can look at it, because then it moves into here's all the perfective prefixes. This is all of them. Without a thematic prefix. And then it shows you going through like what are all the parts. And then if it's red, like basically this is saying if it's red, it's getting cut. If it's orange, it's shifting. And then I think it goes through, so it just goes through, here's all the first person singular, first person plural, second person singular, second person plural, third person with a third person object, fourth person human, and then the negative perfective, those are all your prefixes. Like, so these charts are here so you can just sort of, you can look it up, right? And so you could say, keshchasaku, keshwatasaku, keshyisaku, keshyisaku, keshawaska. You just got to know whether there's an object on there or not. Keshwataska, keshwataska. When it's sakshoe yuchakwatan, chane. Nobody knows how many minutes chane is going to talk. Clain, that's I took my kids somewhere, and she was selling raffle tickets, and they're like, "What's it like to be the daughter of someone who's famous?" I don't think I'm famous, but somebody said that, and my daughter said, "It's exhausting." So I was like, "I'll get you there, child." Okay. So I'll put this up so you guys can go through and look, because it's kind of all informational from this point, right? So it goes through the same thing, negative perfectives. What do those look like? What's in there? How are they changing, right? So take a look at this and think about it, ask questions. Here's all the futures. Like, there's a bunch of stuff in here, but future prefixes, I think, are predictable, if you ask me. I guess there's a couple things that are kind of wild about them. So we'll go over this stuff on Wednesday. It's kind of the last thing we'll do for the semester. That should say future.
Where are you going to put those up?
I'll put them up on tlingitlanguage.com under Learning Tlingit and Advanced Tlingit. So usually with all of our classes, at the end of class, I go home, eat, I take a nap sometimes, but usually in the evening or at nighttime, I will put a recording of this class onto YouTube, and then under tlingitlanguage.com, I'll put a link to that recording, and I'll put links to everything that we looked at, with the exception of the images all come from the beginning Tlingit workbook, although there's a few that are kind of these sort of old-timey pictures of Tlingit Ani. I've just been finding those just so we can talk about stuff. Wukecha Johan Vilchish, Yiko Ayachwan, Dendegaga Naitlak.
Jagen.
Anarchish Kwatu.
Nurtish kune.
Okay.
Achtwusigui tundatani tutlaani daat knufchish.
Wukecha we Atina Khayati.
Bye.